Hey, today I'm talking about 3 Jane Fonda films that I have been meaning to watch for a while. And the names of those 3 films are The China Syndrome, They Shoot Horses, Don't They? And On Golden Pond. First up is The China Syndrome. This is a 1972 film that is just pure propaganda, but it's pretty great. This also stars Jack Lemmon and Michael Douglas, who also produced it. I didn't know he was a producer. He freaking produced One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. How cool is that? And the basic premise is, due to human error, there was almost a catastrophe at a nuclear power plant that could have killed millions. But thankfully they caught it all in time, so it didn't happen. But then corporate greed happens. Yeah, okay, so this movie's just pure anti-nuclear propaganda. And I understand where that's coming from. I definitely get that. It's also about corporate greed and how that kind of just ruins everything, which is very fair. Gestures wildly at the state of the world. But really, this film is just a suspense thriller. It's kind of almost like a monster film in a sense of just like this nuclear thing is just like this looming monster that's gonna come and kill everything. And it's just like a big suspense thriller and figuring out like what's going on and how do we stop it? But oh no, greed's getting in the way. We can't stop it. You bastards. And yeah, no, it's actually really good. Like, even though this film does very clearly lean one way, I can kind of put that aside to still really appreciate the storytelling involved in this movie. So yeah, I like this film a lot. I think if you want a good suspense thriller, this is definitely a good suspense thriller. You definitely need to be able to suspend your disbelief, but it's still good. It's still really damn good. Next up is They Shoot Horses, Don't They? This is a 1970 film that's just a very clear analogy for the pitfalls of capitalism. But what makes it even better is it actually happened. So the basic premise is, back during the 20s/30s, there was this really weird fad in which America really loved dance marathons. And I know what you're thinking is probably what I was thinking, where like they go for a couple of days and that's about it. No. I looked it up because I didn't believe what was actually happening in this movie. Dance marathons would go for hundreds of hours, if not 1,000+ hours. Like, they would go for a month plus of kind of non-stop dancing. In the movie, it was presented where like they got a 10-minute break every 2 hours where they could sit down. But like when they were eating, they would have to do it while still dancing, while shuffling around. And they would legit go for weeks on end. This film is just like Squid Games, except instead of being like this dystopian future where they're doing all these crazy out there weird stuff, it's an actual thing that really happened. So that's fun. I think what pushed this movie down a little bit is because I just didn't believe that this was the thing for the longest time. I think it was like halfway through the movie where I'm just like, this is silly. And then I looked it up and I'm like, what? Here's a screenshot from Wikipedia. It's bonkers. It does have a very good ending though. I like the ending. It just continues to prove how f***ing awful capitalism is. Yay, America. So yes, would I recommend this movie? Yeah. It's a good solid movie about the pitfalls of capitalism. So if you want a good solid movie about that, here you go. It's f***ed up. And lastly is On Golden Pond. This is a 1981 film starring Henry Fonda, yes, Jane Fonda's dad, and also Katharine Hepburn. And the basic premise is Henry Fonda plays this grumpy old man who is sad and afraid of being old and being close to death, and so he's just kind of mean to everyone. And it's sometimes funny. This movie was definitely very interesting. It reminded me a lot of Autumn Sonata, a movie I crazy love and without a doubt recommend. This is kind of more of a simplified, easier to chew American version where it's still dealing with like adults coming to terms with childhood trauma and also helping your very adult parents still grow and become adults when they should have done that decades earlier, but in kind of like an easier to consume way than Autumn Sonata is. Autumn Sonata is great because it's just like, it's so extreme and intense, and it builds an intensity because it's kind of like the floodgates just kind of like going psh, 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 when watch. Whereas this is just kind of more like a chill vibe of, hey look, the pond type of thing. It's good. It's definitely good and good performances. I think they kind of softened things a little bit, a little too much. I wanted a little more harder edge, a little more hard emotions. But even with that, I would still recommend it. Like, this is a film I without a doubt recommending to my parents. I think they would enjoy this film a lot, especially now as they're getting up there in age versus when they were 30 when this film came out. So couldn't necessarily relate. But 40 years later, you could probably relate a little bit more now. So yeah, it's definitely a good film and worth a watch. It's just, it could potentially like open your eyes to certain things, but I don't think it's guaranteed to. So like, it's definitely good. It's just not, for me, the most amazing thing, but it could be pretty amazing for you. Yes. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got The China Syndrome, sitting at number 37 in the really like section. And then after that is They Shoot Horses, Don't They, sitting at number 70 in the quite like section. And then bringing up the rear, not too terribly far behind, is On Golden Pond, sitting at number 74. Also in the quite like section. And this is out of a total of 126 old movies so far this year.